Yo, what's going on, people? It's your boy Huncho, back at you again with another video. So guys, I've got some major updates regarding some stories we've been covering over the past couple of weeks, and I've also got a story which hasn't even been covered by the news, and if it wasn't for the case actually ending up in court, I don't think the case would have got reported on, and just like how I've been speculating in the past, how police have been suppressing information. So the first story we're about to get into, I did post on my community tab the other day, which was a stabbing that had happened in a Sainsbury supermarket in Ilford. So it's being reported that violence had erupted in Ilford on the 21st of May 2020, which resulted in two men being rushed to hospital to treat stab wounds, and it's believed that another incident is connected to the one at Sainsbury's. The first incident was of course the one at Sainsbury's on Roden Street in Ilford, which happened at around 7:15 PM on the 21st of May 2020, and it was said that a man had suffered serious stab wounds and was taken to hospital by ambulance. Shortly after, the ambulance service was then called to the second incident in Forest Gate. It was reported that ambulance crews attended a residential address where another male had sustained serious injuries from that stabbing. Yesterday, two males, that being 18-year-old Lathwejan Sivian and an 18-year-old Abd Solomon, went on to be charged with attempted murder, possession of an offensive weapon, and possession with intent to supply Class B drugs in relation to the stabbing which happened in Sainsbury's. A third male was also arrested on suspicion of causing grievous bodily harm, but at this current time it's not clear whether he's been charged with that. The two 18-year-olds appeared in court today via video link, but currently there's no reports on that court hearing, but they did appear at Barkingside Magistrates Court. Now as it stands, I do believe this group have only been arrested in connection to the Sainsbury stabbing. I can't say if they were arrested and charged for the Forest Gate incident, and this situation could be one of two things. First, the Sainsbury stabbing could have happened and then the alleged group could have gone to Forest Gate to commit the other offence, or because the footage had been circulating online and maybe word got out about the Sainsbury's incident, it could have been a retaliation to that situation. But if there is any further updates to this situation, as always, I'll let you guys know. Which moves us on to our next story, and that's an update in the Emily Jones murder case. Now, I've done coverage surrounding this situation, which I'll leave linked down in the description. Feel free to go and check that out to put this video into a bit more context. But to summarise, a 7-year-old schoolgirl by the name of Emily Jones had gone out to Queen's Park in Bolton on Mother's Day, which would have been the 22nd of March 2020, with her mother and father. She would go on about playing in the park like any other normal child, and she then rode past a bench where she was set upon by a woman who stabbed her in the throat, which unfortunately killed her. Emily's dad witnessed the murder of his child, and it was reported that a member of the public held the woman until police arrived. She was then arrested, and she was then detained under the Mental Health Act, and an inquest was then opened surrounding this case. So it does now seem like 30-year-old LTO Naskana has gone on to be charged with Emily's murder and a further charge of possession of a bladed article. She was remanded into custody, where she's to appear at Manchester and Salford Magistrates Court on the 26th of May 2020. So originally there was a massive uproar about the person who had broke the story, which was Bolton news editor Carl Holbrook, because he didn't release the name of the murderer at the time the story was broken. He went on to tell reporters, this day and age, people are so quick to jump to irrational conclusions and crazy conspiracy theories about all sorts of things that they read. Since this terrible tragedy occurred in Bolton on Mother's Day, I've been contacted by people around the world accusing me of all sorts of things because the suspect hadn't been named. Carl added those who had been in contact had jumped to all kinds of conclusions, which of course were totally wrong, and accused the news of withholding the truth. Now what Carl is talking about is the fact that people had speculated that the woman in question was of Somali descent, but this turned out to be false because the woman was of Polish descent, and it was told that the rumour had been started off by far-right extremists, which then spilled out onto social platforms. Now in my last video covering this, I did go on to say she had a history of mental health problems. Instead of looking at what her descent was, we should be looking at the people who have assessed her to let her to be out in the public. And of course the inquest will be looking at things like this, but at the end of the day, everyone was so quick to say that this woman was of Somali descent and it was a racial attack, but I don't see anywhere online people taking the steps to admit that they're in the wrong. Instead of allowing this girl's family to mourn in peace, because we do have have to remember she was only 7 years old, people have decided to make this a race thing instead of allowing police to do the actual investigation. So moving on swiftly, and with that being said, it looks like there's been an update in the shooting that took place in Haringey the other day. Now again, I did cover this briefly in a previous video and I will leave that link down in the description, feel free to go and check that out. But to summarise, on the 18th of May 2020, a man who has now been named as Chad Gordon had opened his front door on Wiltshire Gardens in Haringey, where he sadly met his fate after 2 gunmen had opened fire on him before fleeing the scene. Now, it's been strongly confirmed that Chad was killed in a case of mistaken identity, and police are still appealing for witnesses and information to identify those responsible. A post-mortem examination took place at Haringey Mortuary on Thursday the 21st of May 2020 and gave the cause of death as a gunshot wound. It's now also being reported that Chad had suffered with autism, and Chad's mother, Anne-Marie Wilson, would go on to say, "We are devastated by what has happened. Chad wouldn't hurt a fly. He was so gentle and caring. If anyone knows anything, then I urge them to contact the police." And she had also appealed for everyone to respect the privacy of the family at this tragic time. UK rapper Chip would also get onto Instagram to pay tribute to Chad, and he would say, "RIP neighbourhood Chad, you are loved, you are loved. This planet wasn't good or loving enough to keep you here. So may your soul bless and guide everyone in the borough and beyond. Say hi to Black the Ripper for me, give him a hug and Uncle Barry. Can I get an amen or amen?" Which then moves us on to our next update, and that is surrounding the shooting of Aya Hashim. Again, I've covered this story before and I'll leave any relevant links down in the description. Feel free to go and check those out. But to summarise again, a 19-year-old law student by the name Aya Hashim was gunned down on the 18th of May 2020 in broad daylight as she was going to get groceries for her mum. After a post-mortem examination was held, it's believed that Aya died from a single gunshot wound to the chest, and she was shot literally yards from her home. Since the incident had taken place, police have gone on to arrest 13 people, and 4 men and a woman were charged with the murder of Aya Hashim and the attempted murder of Pasha Khan. Uthman Satya, Abukir Sadia, Kashif Manzoor and Pharaoh Solomon appeared at Preston Magistrates Court this morning, May 23, 2020. In a series of short hearings at court, the 5 were remanded into custody to appear at Preston Crown Court on Wednesday, and they were also charged at that hearing, as previously stated, with the attempted murder of their intended target, Pasha Khan. The court was told the allegations were so serious they could only be heard at Crown Court, and of course no applications for bail were to be made. During the hearings, a closure order was also issued for Pharaoh Solomon's business R1 Tyres for up to 3 months following an application by Lancashire Police. Now, in my last video I did covering this, we went over the reputation of R1's tyre garage owned by the Solomon brothers, and I did say RI's last time, so apologies for that. It is R1 Tyres, but I highly suggest you go and watch that video. It was only brief, but again it explains why they don't have the best reputation in Blackburn. So it was reported that on the 4th of December 2019, fire crews had spent 2 hours at R1's Tyres in Wallybanks, Blackburn, after they were called at 2:40 AM. The police were investigating the fire as suspicious because Pharaoh Solomon's CCTV caught 2 people on film apparently pouring petrol on a pile of old tyres and setting fire to them on the yard of a neighbouring unit. Pharaoh's at the time would go on to say that the fire caused thousands of pounds worth of damage, and he went on to say, "It's the last thing that I need. I would call it a hate crime. I now go home and wonder if I'll get a good night's sleep for fear someone will set fire to one of my 3 premises. My CCTV clearly shows 2 people pouring petrol on a pile of old tyres on the neighbouring unit at the side of my building and then setting fire to them. I've given the film to the police." Again, it's a bit random why they would select this specific garage, which doesn't have the best reputation, and then try to set fire to it, causing thousands of pounds worth of damage. It makes you think, was this some kind of retaliation in a tit for tat between rivals, which has now escalated into the unfortunate murder of Aya? And finally, this last story once again shows the suppression of information which is given to reporters by police. Now, there isn't too much details about this last one, but yesterday it was heard in court that on the 17th of February 2020, Emmanuel Iwu, age 19, allegedly approached a man known as Zeev Levy and attempted to open fire with a modified loaded revolver. In court, it was heard he dumped the weapon and fled the scene before driving to his mother's address. He appeared in court via video link from HMP Thameside, charged with attempted murder, possession of a firearm described as a modified 6-shot gator loading revolver, and possession of ammunition. Prosecutor Tim Hunter said it's alleged that the defendant approached the victim unknown phone to him and attempted to discharge the firearm. He then passed away what's a loaded revolver firearm and is seen to drive from the location to his mother's address. Judge Mark Lucraft QC remanded him into custody and said, "We will return to this case on the 5th of June for an adjourned plea and trial preparation hearing. We will endeavour on that date to fix a date for trial. The current trial period is estimated to be 4 or 5 days. Now, when that trial date does come up, of course, I'll walk you guys through the trial. And again, it seems like police are suppressing what gets reported in the news. And it's more than likely because although the stats say that crime is declining, the harsh and sad reality of it is it's more than likely much higher than it's ever been. Now, I'm not going to lie, I can't confirm this, but you got to think about it. For what other reason would a crime like this not get reported on, where a random person has walked up to this man and opened fire, nearly killing him? It just makes you wonder. Again, if there is any further updates to any of these situations, as always, I'll let you guys know. But let me know what you guys think of this in the comment section below. Give the video a little like, and if you want the latest drill, street and music news out of the UK, be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. It's been your boy Huncho, and I'm out.